We are here together for one purpose, to ensure that your sons and your daughters, the class of 2027, have the best start possible. I am pleased to share with you that we have several people in the room who will share parts of that transition, pieces of wisdom. Right over here to my right is Jody DeGroot, our Vice Principal of Formation and Professional Development. Next to her is our Vice Principal of Curriculum Instruction, Bill Burke. And part of our core team for the Academic Center of Excellence is Kristen Gormley. And so the four of us together hopefully will have the answers to all of your questions. And if we don't, we'll get back to you. So again, just an introduction, and these are names and faces that we hope that you will see many, many times throughout the four-year journey. Opportunities to have face-to-face and one-on-one meetings with. Dr. Kelly Goodsell is our new president. She was formerly the director of our Academic Center of Excellence, and she may or may not be able to join us this morning. Again, what is the purpose of this meeting? It is to help you navigate the transition so you can walk with your sons and your daughters in support of them so they can have the best start possible. We also want to further reinforce our Jesuit values. Some of you are not unfamiliar to Bellarmine or to Jesuit education, but for some of you, this is your first experience. Regardless, it may be new in some ways, and so we want to reinforce that, re-explain, or explain for the first time. We often start with our mission statement. Perhaps you've seen this before, heard it before, you might even have it memorized by now. This is a mission statement that was developed by a group of people. It is transformed over time. It was not the same mission statement that I saw when I was first hired in the early 80s. It's changed because our families have changed. The institution has adjusted the way we deliver, but the core of it never has changed. We will always be a Catholic school in the Jesuit tradition. We're committed to preparing our young men and women for college and beyond. And we're committed to the values that our St. Ignatius, the founder of the Society of Jesus, taught us to help our students become dedicated to a compassionate lifestyle, committed to justice, and always do that with a considerate heart. They are lifelong learners, committed to serving the world as Jesus intended. So that is, maybe not all those words, but that's essentially what we're committed to do. This is our commitment to you. So Jesuit values, while the mission statement anchors us, these are kind of the guideposts. This helps us to remain focused on that mission. The Jesuit values are shared by the 874 Jesuit universities and high schools, Cristo Rey schools around the world. Let me say that again. We are one of 874 Jesuit institutions. Some of you come from districts where there may be 3 or 4 high schools. This is one of 874 schools. And we coordinate and collaborate so we can deliver this mission in the most beautiful way possible. These are the values that help us do this. Some of the words may be brand new, some of them are Latin, not necessarily words you use in your common language. So let me talk about a couple of them. Magis is part of our theme for this year. Magis means the more. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to do more, but we do push kids to try new things. What it really means is we ask them to go deeper into their understanding, to explore and to become stronger in their beliefs. We ask them to share their talents with one another, to share them with our community, so we collectively can be the more. This year's theme, Community, Magis in Motion, is really about together we do this work. Together we make a difference in the world, a key Jesuit value. Another one that I will touch on is Cura Personalis. You will hear us speak of this often. Cura Personalis is the way we interact with one another and with our students. We cannot work with our students if we don't know who they are as human beings. So we walk with them, we get to know them, we help them discover things about themselves, we care for the individual. They come to us differently, they leave differently. They don't look like, act like, or have the same values as the person sitting next to them. And that's more than okay. So you meet them where they are. We often say we bring them in their door and we take them out ours based on these values, not in an effort to change them, but to help them become the best version of themselves. And the last one that I will touch on is AMDG, Ad Majorem Dei Gloriam, all for the greater glory of God. That is why we exist, pure and simple, to go out and to serve the world. Students learn what they learn so they can go out and make a difference in this complex world that we live in. So the grad, what does all of this mean? Well, eventually they'll graduate from Bellarmine Prep, and it happens like that. I was thinking this morning about the class of 2024, our senior class. They started in the fall of 2020, and we all remember what was going on in the fall of 2020. And now they're about to graduate. And they're these beautiful human beings who have learned so much about themselves and about life. They will be the grad by the time they graduate. They're so close right now. What does that mean exactly? It means that they're curious, they're open to growth, they're intellectually competent. Are they all going to Harvard? No, that's not the point. But they're curious enough that they want to explore that intellectual capacity. They're religious, Catholic, not necessarily, but they desire a relationship with Jesus Christ. Loving. They know how to treat one another. They know how to respond to the injustice of the world in a kind and loving way. That's the grad. By the way, this is a document that resides in all 874 Jesuit institutions in the world. This is what we guide our students to become. So now we're going to get into some of the brass tacks, because that other stuff, that is so important for the context. If you ever kind of lose track of why we do what we do, please remember this. We are an imperfect institution. We are imperfect human beings, but we are committed every day to do the work that St. Ignatius guided us to do. So what we just talked about, we remind ourselves of this daily. If we're ever confused about the direction we need to take, the type of decision that we need to make, we refer back to the mission and the grad, and we redirect. So let's talk a little bit about what a typical day looks like. Bill, this one's still mine, or is this yours? I think it's his, but I'm going to steal it for just a minute because I want to talk a little bit about the daily schedule. Back in 2018 and 19, we decided that we needed to take a look at the daily schedule because we saw that our students were arriving tired. Actually, they were just arriving late. And we assumed that they were tired. Well, I think they were. They're also really busy people. So we decided to look at the schedule through the lens of what is best for our students socially and emotionally. And voila, we discovered that a later start was something we should consider. So we said, well, let's run a pilot. Let's check this out. Well, this thing called a pandemic struck, and we had an opportunity to run multiple pilots to determine what might work well. And today we have an 8:45 start and a 2:30 dismissal. There's some variations of that, and Bill can go into it. But the background of that is we wanted to make a shift to support the students that we are serving today. Again, they are very busy human beings. I don't need to tell you that. You're the one that are driving them around. But we want to respond in a way that helps them have that strong start and a successful 4 years. So that's just my 2 cents. And now I'm going to bring up one of the best administrators I could work with, Bill Berg.
Thank you, Cindy. And thank you, everybody, for being here. I hope when you came in, you grabbed a packet. In that packet are a lot of what we call one-pagers, some helpful information to help you if it's your first child at Bellarmine or your 10th child at Bellarmine. There's some helpful things on there, and we're going to go over all of them. But you will notice on the second page is a page where you can take notes. So as we kind of go through the nuts and bolts and the kind of the practical aspects of being a Bellarmine student. If you have questions that you want to write down, feel free to use that page for that. There is going to be time at the end to ask questions. and if we don't answer them in a whole group, we're also available for one-on-one conversations too. So I would encourage you to take have a pen or pencil handy and get ready to take some notes. Cindy already talked a little bit about our daily schedule. You are probably already familiar with it, but your son and daughters are going to be diving into this very, very soon. And it'd be helpful for you to kind of know what their experience is going to look like. We do use a 4x4 block schedule. We have an A day and a B day. And again, many of you heard me speak about this before. Classes are 70 minutes long. There's 7 minutes passing between each class. On an A day are 4 academic classes, and on a B day we have 3 academic classes, and then their formation class. As Cindy mentioned, school begins at 8:45 in the morning and concludes at 2:30. We are going to talk a little bit about the time before 8:45 in a little bit when we talk about office hours, and this was something that was really we found very, very helpful, certainly during the school closures during the pandemic, and it's something that we have continued to do. Homework. Some of your students are maybe coming from programs that didn't have or offer homework. We do. And so it might be a little bit of a learning curve. And so I would just be mindful of your students when they come home that they should have homework every day. It's designed to support the instruction. A lot of it is just sometimes repetition if it's in the maths or in the sciences or the languages especially. But it's all designed to support what's going on in the classroom. They should expect 30 minutes of homework per class. All right, so on an A day, they could expect to have 2 hours of homework. That's what I typically encourage kids to consider. If they are in an honors class or later on in an AP class, they could have as much as an hour per class period. It's going to change. It's going to fluctuate, obviously. If they're in an English class and they have an essay they need to work on, they may need to spend more time than 30 minutes on it. If they're prepping for a test or a project in another class, they may need additional time. So organizational skills are really important too as they make their way through it. The home environment is really critical. And I know everyone has a different home, and how they manage their students at home is always going to be a little bit different. I will share with you some of the things that I find really helpful. When Jody comes up, she might share some additional items as well. If you could, try and find that quiet, distraction-free area for your son or your daughter to work. Again, I put my dad hat on all the time. My kids' freshman year, they sat at the dining room table. And I would prep dinner, or my wife would prep dinner, but we could see them, we could monitor their progress. I use trust but verify often. Trust but verify. I trust that they're doing their homework, but I verify that it's getting done. And when they prove to me that, yes, they can manage it on their own, okay, then if you want to work in your bedroom, you're more than welcome to do that. But until you see that pattern of really strong behavior, try and support it as best you can. Find that quiet place for them to work. Try and make sure that you can monitor it appropriately. Again, trust but verify. One of the huge indicators of academic success is homework completion and submission. And so as a parent using My Bellarmine, you can kind of monitor their progress. You can identify patterns, sometimes before the teacher can, if you see that your son or your daughter isn't submitting work on time or at all. And that is the time that we will intervene collectively. A great idea is to have them commit or finish their homework on the day that it's assigned. So when they come home from an A day, they should be working on A day homework. When they come home from a B day, they should be working on B day homework. B day is typically going to be lighter because, again, that includes the formation class when they won't have homework, all right? Sometimes they're going to have to put their A day homework onto a B day onto an A day, but as a rule, I would really encourage them to try to do the A day on an A day homework on an A day, B day homework on a B day. If they ever need any support, or if they need some acceleration, if they're really interested in a project or something that they're working on in class, or really intrigued by it, the Academic Center, and Kristen Gormley will be talking about this a little bit later, is always available to support students with tutoring, with coaching, a number of other areas of support. And again, she'll be talking about that shortly. Our grading guidelines. This is how we design courses. We work very closely in what we call PLCs, professional learning communities, where teachers at the same grade level are working, and same discipline, are working together to build that course. We do a lot of research. We implement a lot of different strategies. We practice, practice, practice. We're not afraid of trying new things. Sometimes they work really, really well. Sometimes they don't work that well. I, as an English teacher myself, have invited colleagues when I have tried something new, and sometimes it just doesn't work. It's okay, all right? We kind of move on. But there's a lot of research and a lot of practice as we implement a number of different types of instruction. Grades should reflect the student learning and progress based on standards for each course. So every discipline has adopted standards. Some of them are national standards, some of them are state standards, some of them are a combination. And the PLC and the department works together to make sure students are meeting those standards. Student engagement in their coursework is essential. This partnership between you and I, the school and you, is really, really important, but so is the relationship between the teacher and the student. And the students need to enter into that classroom. And again, Chris will go into this a little bit later. They have to come into the classroom ready to engage. The teacher will be very invitational, but hopefully they will be able to engage as well. Teachers will provide opportunities for active engagement. All right, we do a lot of group work, we do a lot of paired work, we do a lot of whole group work, and it gives them plenty of opportunities to show what they know and to really truly engage that class. I put down here for students, clear communication is critical. Constant attendance, consistent attendance is critical, and I'll talk about that in a moment as well. If your son or daughter is struggling with a concept from a class, the teacher is the best resource. Encourage them to reach out. Maybe it's an email. Don't expect them to respond in the middle of the night, because that's sometimes when students are doing their work, right? But teachers are available. They love this stuff. We love our subjects that we teach. We love talking about math and science and English and whatnot. And so if they're struggling with something, the teacher is the best resource, but they don't know necessarily if they're not being told. So encourage your son or your daughter to communicate. If they need help from you, you can certainly reach out to the teacher and say, hey, my son or daughter is struggling with this concept. Can you help them? And I have, you're going to see in just a moment, there's some scripts that you can give to your kid that they can use to kind of enter into those conversations with teachers. And we'll go over those in just a moment as well. We get asked questions, the nuts and bolts, all the time about how do things work around here? And it is a fire hose sometimes coming into Bellarmine. It's a new community for many people, and it's not like the one that you just came from. And so there are going to be a lot of questions. And as Cindy said, if we can't answer some of them today, we will get an answer for you soon. All right. So some of the questions we get, I just threw up here, and we're going to start with the food service. We are sitting in the cafeteria. We have 2 lunches. It's based on their 3rd period class. Their advisors will walk them through that, so you don't need to worry about it. But they will know what lunch that they have. But over here in the corner is where our food services are, and it's a full kitchen. The food is phenomenal. The food's very, very good. It's available for students, obviously during lunch and before school, and then there's some grab and go after school. So if they need to get something to eat before they go to practice, for example, that space will be available, will be open, and they can grab something. Your accounts are billed for these foods, so you might want to talk to them about how much they should be eating. Some of our kids are growing like weeds, and you might be taking out a second mortgage, but they need the food. They'll be successful with that. Building hours. Bellarmine Hall, which is that brick building, it used to be called the admin building, but it's called Bellarmine Hall, is open from 7:30 to 3 p.m. The Academic Center, which is Orell Hall, it used to house our library, but the Academic Center is open from 7:30 to 3:45. I want to pause for a second and just tell you that Academic Center is incredibly busy after school with kids going in there and getting help. They're working together. It is not I can't speak for you, it was not my traditional library where everyone had to be really, really quiet and you had the nun going around making sure you were being quiet. It's not that way. It is just a locus of learning, and there are kids in there it's crazy. So crazy in a good way. So encourage your son or your daughter, if they need that support, to go by the Academic Center after school and get that help. The Campus Center, where we are here, is open at 7 o'clock in the morning and it closes at 5 o'clock. So if you need to drop your son or your daughter off early, you certainly can. This building will be available. There is supervision here as well. And then it closes at 5. So if they need to come in here. This is a little bit noisier, a little bit more playful, and so the ACE is a better place to probably do some studying, but I see a lot of kids doing studying around here as well. They might grab something from the kitchen and just, have something to eat, a sandwich, and work on their homework here. But again, this building will be open till 5 as well. We do have a transportation program, and those are the locations that we service. It is a one-way trip though, all right? We pick up and drop off at Bellarmine, but we do not drop them back off in that town or city. We have a limited fleet, and we use that fleet for a lot of our co-curricular or extracurricular activities, our athletic program, and so those buses are being used after school, but they are one way. So if you're coming from DuPont to Puyallup, Federal Way, Gig Harbor, or Olympia, and you think that you need to take advantage of this, or you might need this service, it is available, and it is in the resource section of My Bellarmine to help you. We can also help you afterwards if you just want to come up and chat with us, and we can put you in contact with the right person. Attendance policy. Cindy did mention how we have shifted our schedule a little bit to accommodate kind of a later start, an 8:45. It's by design. It was a very intentional movement. 8:45, kids can sleep in. All right, they can get that bed rest. It's great for brain science, at least that's what they've been suggesting. But also, it's great if you have a student athlete who is pulled out of school to go to an event. They can come in early the next day in office hours and meet with the teacher to get that support. Our teachers are here at 7:30, all right? And so there's a span of time in which your son or daughter can come in and get individual help if they need it. But daily attendance is expected. And so getting your son or your daughter here on time is appreciated. Tardiness should be avoided if at all possible. If you can, and this isn't always a practical thing to do either, if you can schedule appointments, doctor's appointments or whatnot, after school, that would be preferred. There is a planned absence form if you are going to be gone for an extended period of time. Maybe you have an older sibling graduating from college, or you have a family wedding you have to go to on the east, and you're going to be gone for a number of days. There's a planned absence form that we would ask you to complete. Your son and your daughter will go around and have it signed by each teacher, so they will know what they're missing and that they know what they have to have done when they return to campus. If your son or daughter is going to be late, we do ask that you call in. All right, call in and let us know. If we don't know where they are going to be unexcused, and an unexcused absence can have consequences that we wish to avoid. All right, so if they're feeling sick, absolutely stay home. All right, they're not 100%, they should absolutely stay home. But we would ask that you make that phone call just to let us know. Phone call to the Student Services Office, which is right up here with Carrie Stewart, who manages our attendance, is very much appreciated. If we don't get those calls and those unexcused absences start to add up, you will get probably a phone call from the Dean of Students just saying, hey, we need a little bit of help here, okay? Yes, and there are consequences for repeated tardies as well, just so you know. I think they get 5. And then the 6th one, they're going to be doing JUG, all right? And if you don't know, JUG is called Justice Under God. It is Bellarmine's version of detention, and it can be sometimes during lunch, and sometimes it can be after school. So we want to avoid those as much as possible. They happen, tardies happen. We can mitigate that as best we can, but when we start seeing that pattern, it can become a little bit problematic. And we do reset the clock, if you will, at second semester, okay? So it's not for the whole year. It's just one semester at a time. Students may want a locker. We have found that, certainly when we moved to the iPads, that kids are not carrying around these huge bags anymore like they used to. And so they were just never used. I think maybe 40 of them were being used out of the 500-600 that we have. So we don't automatically assign them. But if you want one, we have a bank of lockers that are available to your son or your daughter. All they have to do is request one, and we will give them a number so we know who's in which locker. Right now, if you go up there and look around, you'll see that there are zip ties on the ones that are not being used. So if you do, get a hold of Carrie Stewart. Again, she's in our Student Services Office. Carrie Stewart can assign you one without a problem. Parking drop-off and pickup. This happens typically right in front of the campus center. All right, there's a little arrow. Just follow the arrow around. You can drop your student off and then head right out. If you are late, if you're running late for an appointment or whatever in the morning, this gate up here is likely going to be closed, in which case you can just use the freshman drop-off and have your son or daughter check in at the student services office. So again, this is a great place to drop off and pick up. If the parking lot gate is closed, there's a way that you can just drop off at the freshman drop-off. More stuff. I'm going to invite Lauren Dosher. She's going to talk real quickly about EdTech. We used to use a program called MBS, and we've adopted EdTech, well, I'm going to let her talk about it. If you have questions about EdTech, make sure you're jotting those down, and we can answer them in a little bit.
Perfect. Morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. First thing I'm going to say is that as we've run into questions or any hiccups with EdTech, I think the best approach is just to send me an email directly. So if you want to jot down my last name, it's Doscher, D-O-S-C-H-E-R. And you can obviously find me on the Bellarmine website as well. But the easiest way to get textbooks this year is going to be through your student's login on My Bellarmine. So if you go to My Bellarmine and log in with your student's email and password, that's going to work better than logging in as the parent. So parents have been able to access the textbook store with their login, but students' email is working better. Okay. So second thing to note is once you get onto My Bellarmine, and again, I can help you with this if you don't remember all the steps, but you're going to go to resources, and then there's a tile for books and devices, and you'll see a link right there for the bookstore. So the benefit of working with EdTech is they make it really convenient to get textbooks. You can get all that you need in one order, and they make it really clear. Basically, they'll just populate the list for you based on your student's schedule. So with that said, though, you can at times find cheaper options elsewhere, and that's especially true for English books. So for example, you'll see all the books assigned to your student for English classes. You can find those on Amazon. And so kind of use your best judgment, do what's best for your family, and if you run into any obstacles, it could be a login issue. It also could just be that a course code or something got mispopulated for your student, so reach out to me if anything comes up and we'll work through it. Okay, and I'll be around, so I'm happy to take individual questions when we're done today. Anything else on that? Okay.
Again, her last name is Doscher, D-O-S-C-H-E-R, L at BellarminePrep.org, Doscher L at BellarminePrep.org, and she'll be around to answer questions if you have specific ones. The next topic is lost. If your son or your daughter gets lost, and sometimes they do, and that's okay. There's a lot of anxiety that comes with the first day of school. Our teachers are all typically standing in the hallway. We can see a lost student coming about a mile away, and encourage them to ask. All right, ask any teacher, hey, I don't know where B10 is. We will walk you there if we have to, all right? We don't want them being anxious, obviously, so encourage them to ask. The Student Services Office is kind of a really busy hub of information and support, and so they can always go there if they don't know where to find a class. Our orientation for freshmen is going to walk them through their whole schedule, so hopefully that won't be an issue because classes aren't going to move, and so if they're paying attention to their classes as they go through their schedule, they should be fine. But again, if they do get lost, ask a teacher, go to the Student Services Office. We do have a lost and found. It's on a table like this right outside of the Student Services Office. So believe it or not, kids do sometimes lose things or leave them places, and we try to collect them onto a table. Valuables obviously would be held inside, but water bottles, notebooks, textbooks, things like that might be on that table. So encourage them to check in at the Lost and Found or the Student Service Office if they have misplaced something. Those pencils that they use on their iPads, they lose those all the time. All right, so have to put their name on it because they always end up there. Back to school night. We do have a back to school night on the 13th. You will have an opportunity to not only meet your child's advisor, but go through their day. And it's kind of a quick one. You'll meet all the teachers, you'll see all the classrooms, you'll learn a lot about what's going to be happening in the class itself, but they're pretty quick meetings. They're 10 or 15 minutes with each teacher before you move on to the next class. You will get to experience your child's first day. All right, so we know lost parents too. all right? And so ask teachers if you get lost. It does happen. We are going to have a pre-meeting I believe it's going to be in the gym. Look for additional information on that forthcoming, where you will meet, again, some of the administrators like myself and others, key figures, and you'll also be able to meet your advisor, your son or daughter's advisor, for the first time. Office hours. Office hours, again, we were so intentional in this design. We took instructional time to offer this additional support for kids. It offers a lot more one-on-one time if they need it. They can work with kids on group projects before school if they need it. They can circle back with the teacher if they're pulled out of a class for an athletic event. So office hours is really, really important. And we've kind of broken it down a little bit. Monday and Thursday is really for academics, 8 to 8:45. Teachers are available to work with students on academic areas. I say that with this caveat. If they need support, our teachers are available before school and after school, Monday through Friday by appointment. Just meet with them. They can meet after school. They're here from 2:30 to 3. Then most of them have other responsibilities. All right, but it's not just that Monday and Thursday period that they can meet with teachers. By appointment, reaching out, scheduling something with the teacher before or after school, Monday through Friday is an option. We do have extended office hours periods, which is they're on the occasional Wednesday. They're about once a month or so, and this is when we take a formation class, 6th period, out of the schedule, and it's 5, 7, 8. So we start at 10 o'clock, and then 5th period, 7th period, then 8th period, which gives 8 to 10 as an opportunity for kids to meet with teachers. Usually it's around a grading period. So if the end of a quarter is coming up, the end of a semester is coming up, we'll have that extended period of time where they can get in and get that last minute additional support if they need it before the end of a grading period. We have clubs, a ton of clubs and activities for students. So those are Tuesdays, scheduled for Tuesdays and Fridays, 8 to 8:45, or 2:30 to 2:55 after school. All right, so those are clubs and activities. Get used to that. They're going to hear it a lot. But those are the clubs and activities that we have scheduled for office hours. I am going to invite Ms. Gormley up. Kristen is going to talk a little bit more about the intentionality behind it, the instructional component of office hours, and she's going to walk you through a lot of those one-pagers that you have in front of you. So, thank you, Kristen.
So my part of my presentation today is to go over what we call one-pagers. We're going to start with kind of what the role of the ACE is. This is an infographic that was created to illustrate what we have done in the ACE. We call it the Academic Center for Excellence, and it was intentionally designed to be a college model center where students across Bellarmine's campus can come and do research. We put our digital services in there so they can get help on your iPad, and I know some families are going to stop by there after our session today to get that help with the iPad. We also, as some people have spoken about, there's lots and lots of energy going on there. Students can come and go into cubbies and do group study. It is a very inviting place. We run our testing center through there. We have embedded courses. We do academic coaching for students who may have a blip or they may need some extra support with organization or homework management. So we really, I like to say we're kind of an extension of all the classrooms. Teachers will come in and teach courses within our setting, and it really is, in my opinion, the heart of the school. I'm a little biased, but there you go. So this infographic just gives you that information. The next thing that we have given you a packet of what we call our one-pagers. It's kind of a suite of tips and tools for students and for parents. And so if you open up, you'll see the first one is the office hours. As Bill mentioned, we discovered during the pandemic that office hours are a key piece for student success. and that it is a college readiness skill to be able to go and speak with your professors, right? It's a hard skill, especially if you aren't feeling very confident or you're a little shy. So we in the ACE do a lot of coaching for students, and we will actually walk with students to office hours if they're a little reticent to go. And this document here, you can see it really maps it out for you. I would link on it, but then we'd be going back and forth. But the office hours is intentional. I highly recommend that students send an email or a My Bellarmine message to be very clear about when you are intending to show up, what is your point of confusion that you need to be working on, and then always follow up with a thank you and these are my next steps. Those are the types of skills that get our students ready and it'll be far more purposeful. We didn't really design it to be the drop-in, I just have 10 assignments that I got behind on and can you put this into the system? We do that, but it's really designed to be more instructional time. And the more focused students are, that helps our teachers prepare and be ready when you show up. Are there any questions regarding that? Yes? Both. So the office hours that happen weekly, we hope that they're going to see their teachers, but they are welcome to come to the ACE and we can help there as well. You'll see that we have across curriculum and across content areas that we have labs and things like that that are available so they can use their office hours to be studying in the ACE as well. But again, as Bill said, the best point of contact is to go to their teacher first. So any other questions regarding that? The other thing I might add is during our extended office hours days, we often offer supplemental courses that students can access on how do we do focused note-taking, how do I use a planning system, how do I prepare for finals. So you'll see that information coming to you, and so you can encourage your students to do that. The next page is a language piece. We know that as students are developing and getting to know themselves, sometimes they don't have the language skills to speak, like they don't know how to approach a teacher and those sorts of things. So this is just a really nice list that we got from our AVID organization that gives some sentence starters. And this can be very, very helpful as you're coaching your children to come in and talk with adults and interface. So we thought that would be a helpful thing to include. If you keep turning, the next one is our infographic again. And then turn one more page. By the way, these are all on the resource page under the ACE, so you can click into the resource page and link them, and you can print them off at home and do all those sorts of things. This is one that we created about 2 years ago because we found that both transfer and freshman students and families were like, oh my gosh, there's so many things at Bellarmine I gotta keep track of. So we created a one-pager for you to be able to go through here and go, okay, yeah, they know how to use Gmail. They know how to use Notability. They know how to use all these different platforms that we use here at Bellarmine. So you can go through this and make sure that they're ready and they're prepared. Keep turning. If they're struggling with any of these, they can always come by the ACE and we can help them out as well. Organization. Students are taking 8 classes, including formation. Okay? They're 14 and 15. That's a lot to manage. And there's a lot of different places that they need to stay organized. In my opinion, this is the biggest game changer. They have to be organized in their digital space, which is the Notability, and Jody will talk more about Notability and those sorts of things. They need to be organized in the Google Suite because all of a sudden they're going to go from having 5 documents to maybe 50. And if they don't learn to keep those organized in class files and things like that, it's going to be very difficult when a teacher says, please open this, And then they're spending 10 minutes on their iPad trying to find out where that document is, right? I don't know if any of you have Google Drives that are a mess. Mine isn't so great, and it's very stressful if you can't find what you're looking for. The third thing that I think is critically important is to have a physical space, because even though we're a one-to-one school, many teachers are still handing out handouts. And what will happen is if we don't have a binder space for them to put that, it is going to end up to be in the bottom of their backpack and all crumpled. And so I call that stashing and dashing, right? You just throw it in there, and then when you pull it out the next time, that just doesn't look very professional. So I highly recommend that you get one binder. It doesn't need to be large, and that you get plastic, those plastic pocket dividers, and put those in there for each class. It used to be that we recommended an A-day binder and a B-day binder, but what we have found is that when you do your A-day homework and then the next day you come to B-day, you only have your B-day stuff, your physical stuff, and then that off day is the day where kids should be going and asking for extra help if they get stuck, right? But then they don't have their materials. So we found that using one binder is much better. Bill and I have had a lot of conversations about this, but I'm a one binder gal. It's just easier. I know families, if you turn the page again, have been asking about a materials list. First and foremost, students should be checking their My Bellarmine pages for specific things for each course. Because I know that, like for freshman algebra, we are asking students to bring a spiral. And if you can find a spiral with graph paper, that would be great. But depending on which course you're taking and your students are taking, teachers may request some extra things. But in general, these are the items that we really highly recommend. Charging equipment is really, really important, because oftentimes if kids are on their iPads all day long, they start to run out of juice at the end of the day. So we have outlets in the classrooms and kids can access that, but their battery may not last that long. The other big one is the calculator. We know that our students are using graphing calculators in algebra, and the sooner they get to start using those, the more familiar they're going to be with the power of what they can do. So we're asking that they get those early. Any questions regarding that? All right. Raise your hand if you think these are helpful. Good. Next, these are what we call rules for staying engaged and being here at Bellarmine. We've talked a lot about this already, but that A-day homework on A-day, B-day homework on B-day, and we know that we have procrastinators, right? And they're like, well, I'm not going to do the homework until the night before it's due. We know that research says the more times you engage with the content that you learned, so I coach kids, review it during class, review it in the afternoon, review it before you go to bed, and the rate of retention skyrockets. Then they sleep on what they learned for the day, and it makes the study at the end of the coursework much easier because you don't have to relearn anything, right? So getting your kids to be repetitive reviewers of what they're doing is extremely helpful and will be a big time saver for them, and their learning will just be that much deeper. Another tip that I give students and families is I call it plug in and tuck in. We know that there's a tremendous amount of research on the digital space and how students are, and how companies are getting our kids addicted to screens, right? And to social media and all those sorts of things. They need to shut down, right? So, and they need their things ready to go. So if you could have a system at home where you put your digital devices in a charging space, right? And then go to sleep. Adolescents are like toddlers. They're tired. Their bodies are changing significantly. They're facing new social challenges. And we know that a lack of sleep increases anxiety, depression, and all of those things. And so I encourage you as families to really structure that. And going to bed with your cell phone isn't good sleep. We all know that, right? So that's just my push for technology. So plug in and tuck in. You like that? And then just as a parent, you may be really worried, like, Bellarmine's a hard place to go to school. So you do still need to be present. So I highly recommend you choose one day a week where you sit down and you go through My Bellarmine together. I have graduated 2 of my own children from here, and I know those conversations when they get behind. Try not to get so frustrated and angry. Okay, it's hard. Like, I cannot believe that you missed the last 3 homework assignments in algebra. What are you thinking, right? That's going to interrupt a really powerful conversation. Instead, say, what have you done really well this week? And what can we celebrate? And where do we need to reach for support? Do you need to go to office hours this week? Should we contact the ACE and see if we can get you some coaching so you're better at turning in your homework? Is something else going on that I need to help you with? Are you over-programmed? But having that consistent time lets the students know that you're engaged, that you're in care, that you care, and that they're going to have to own up, right? A lot of families do it Sunday afternoon about 2. But it's important as they make this transition. And then you'll start to learn when you can start to pull away. Any questions on any of that? Alrighty. The next one, we talk about engagement. This is something that most teachers have posted in their room. It's called GROW. And it is stands for Getting Ready to Learn. So another thing that we know is helpful for students is if they preview the My Bellarmine pages before they go to class. You could do that the night before as part of your plug in and tuck in thing, but knowing what's going to happen in that classroom the next day or before class just puts you that much ahead, right? You're ready to go, you're ready to engage, you have an idea about what they're doing, you've done the work and you're prepared, your homework is ready to go. Again, that's talking about reviewing. We've already discussed that. Having our students open to maybe thinking differently and ready to learn something new is very, very powerful. And then just keep asking questions. That keeps us engaged, and teachers are going to encourage that in their lessons. But teachers are going to coach this in the first few weeks and hopefully throughout the year, but this is kind of our get in and start going. Any questions on that one? Okay, this is one of my favorite ones because the students helped me create it. We call it the 5 Ps plus. And I don't know if any of you are in a career where this is what you do, right? So this is a sort of a mini routine for students when they are working independently, right? And they're doing their study time. In the last 5 years of coaching students on how to be strong students, I know that students go to 4, right? And typically what we find if they don't go through this process of stopping, previewing My Bellarmine, planning on what am I going to get done and how, right? And visualizing what that looks like, prioritizing what's most important. We say a day is most important, but you may have a major paper coming up and you may have to put that ahead, or a big test or something like that. But if they go straight to produce, they typically just do what's left in their head. So again, a planning system is critical. I'm not saying it has to be paper, that's good for some people. That we have digital ones, sometimes people just have flip charts, sometimes they keep it on notes on their iPad, but they need to have a system that's helping them manage those 8 classes of homework, because it becomes overwhelming very quickly. The other big one, and Bill talked about this, is often students will do the work, but they won't pass it in, right? So then we come down to those conversations of, I saw you do that, why does the teacher not have it? I don't know, thought I turned it in, right? And there's different places that we turn things into. We have Shobi, we have turnitin.com, we have My Bellarmine, and students need to learn which teacher uses which system. And oftentimes, the big shift that I have seen from 5 or 10 years ago is that students are expected to turn assignments in without prompting. So it used to be that you'd go to class and everybody would say, can you turn in your math assignment from last night? And it was prompted. Now, that may or may not happen, and the students may have to turn it in before they even show up to class, digitally. So that's a new skill and one that kids need to practice. And encouraging there. And then, of course, we're a Jesuit school, so it's always important to reflect on your learning and think about, how did I use my time today? I sat down, I thought I had an hour and a half of homework, it took me 3. Why? Did I put away my cell phone? Was I texting my friends the whole time? Was I sitting in front of a television? Was I in the kitchen and too much was going on? You know, getting students to reflect about that is just going to make them that much more aware of what they need and what they don't need. So having those conversations are really powerful. Yes? No. It is not standardized. We have I would say we have 3 major turn-in systems. We have My Bellarmine, which you can import assignments there. We have Shobi, which is an app that you can turn in digital work, and then teachers can give feedback digitally, right? And then there's turnitin.com that is our another place to turn work in, typically written work, and teachers can give feedback there. It also checks for AI support or use and plagiarism. So the teachers will be very clear about where it should be submitted. So teachers usually pick one. So they just need to get to know that and ask those questions. So, yes? I would say that is dependent on your child. So if you feel like you have a child who needs to be more closely monitored, Shobi can sign up parent accounts. And teachers vary in how fast they grade work. But if they use My Bellarmine to submit, you'll be able to see that it's been submitted. Same with Shobi. Shobi has like a little paper clip. But I do know kids sometimes submit blank pages so that the paper clip's there. So sometimes if you have a child that needs a little more, you'll get to know that. So if you're wanting access to Shobi, you just email the teachers and they'll add you to it. Any other questions? Okay. The next page is a document that you might want to put on your refrigerator. It's all of the support services that we offer before and after school. And this is what's constant. Kids do not need to make an appointment. They can drop in. The only caveat to that is that our writing center is run by Lauren Dawson, who you met, and Jacob Singer, who's one of our upperclassmen English teachers. And if you want to meet with them directly, we ask that you send an email. But you can see that we have covered all the departments. And so students are welcome to come in. And if they need more, they're welcome to ask for it. And we will be there to help them. Any questions on that one? Alrighty. I'm going to kind of breeze through these next ones because this really does take instruction. But we have a school-wide focus note-taking system. And we have adopted it from Cornell Notes, which some of you may be aware of, as well as Avid. But again, this note-taking process is something that our teachers are teaching students. I know that when I went to high school here at Bellarmine, nobody taught me how to take notes or how to engage with them. But that is very purposeful and will be part of your students' experience here. If they need extra help on how to manage this, they can stop by and see us. There's also online Google Docs. Notability has focused note-taking templates, but it's a key piece of being a strong student. Let's see, how am I doing on time? Am I going too long, Bill? The last couple of pages here this is the standards. are rigorous standards that overlay everything at Bellarmine. So writing, inquiry, collaboration, these are all standards that we're going to expect students to be able to know and do so they can become grads at grad. And the next page is, like we said, the ACE isn't just a place to come get help. It's a place to explore learning. And Lauren Doshner is really our lead person in the ACE that does the research piece. She does that through social studies classes, science classes, English classes, but we also have a capstone program that if students are particularly interested in a topic, they can apply to that and do a deeper investigation with that. But this is just something for you to know that's available. And with that, I'm going to kind of finish, and we just included a couple more things about discussions, and then the last page is who to contact if you want. So that kind of walks you through the packet. Are there any questions regarding that? Or anything? Yes? Yeah. I think it's 6, maybe 6 for freshman parents, and then you start your rotation at 6:30. The question was about back to school night. I believe that we start at 6 for the freshman parents, and then we do start the rotations from 6:30 to 8. So, yes. So we always just keep rotating. A day, B day, A day, B day. And that can be hard for freshmen because they start to think that Mondays are always an A day, but that isn't true. And if we were to have a day where we're not on campus, we don't reset. We may come back and do a unified day or something like that, because otherwise the whole calendar changes throughout the year. So it just goes A day, B day, A day, B day, A day, B day. All right, well, I just want to finish by saying we are here to nurture your children, to make sure that they can feel successful, to help them navigate through the bumps along the way, because they will be there. But in my opinion, if you don't hit any bumps, you don't have any growth. And so they should know that we're here to support them, and we hope to see them hanging around in the ACE. So thank you.
So we went deep into the academic parts of our world, the academic support in the ACE, the what to expect going to classes and teachers and office hours and all those things. So I'm here to just also talk about engagement beyond the classroom, a little bit more about how purposeful that is, because an experience with a focus only on the academic and not the whole person, we kind of miss out on those things. And really some of the co-curricular experiences are the ones that engage students, and that's that connection point between the academic and the CURE personalities, the whole person development. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about the why behind Beyond Academics. Like any high school, we have other things for the school experience, for the high school experience for our students. Cindy mentioned Ad Majorem Dei Gloriam, for the greater glory of God. We look for ways to push ourselves and move ourselves to these spaces where we're doing things not even just for ourselves, but for others and for God. The Magis, meaning the more, not to build out schedules that we can't manage, but to think about those things that stretch us to the more, where we look at the types of things that help us become better people, but also we help others become better persons also. And then beyond the classroom, skill building, where a lot of the learning we do in the classroom can play out in some of the programs like Model UN, marine chemistry, or capstone, or on the fields and on the courts. And so the programs that we put in front of you, saw a few students sitting here waiting for tryouts. We have tryouts going on right now in some of our athletic fall programs. Our clubs will be up and running during Picture Day this week. The clubs will be out there for kids to sign up and to say, I want to get involved, when do you guys meet? And we build in those spaces so that those meetings with clubs, those activities that students participate in, work around the academic school day so that it can coexist. Campus ministry is one of our programs that all of our students are asked to be involved in, and we run a 4-year retreat program. Every single week there's either a liturgical opportunity, a prayer service, or a campus ministry event. And we ask our kids to engage in that part of the world too. It's integrated into the school day, and it's integrated into our programs throughout the weekends, and it is a comprehensive part of being part of the high school. And then leadership. And we have approached the idea of leadership not as a separate class or a separate program by itself, although we have some leadership in that area, but we work on how to build leadership in all programming, even classrooms. In fact, this summer when our teachers were doing training, one of our courses was on building leaders in your classroom. How do you engage students so that leadership can be practiced everywhere, which is such an important skill moving forward. If you look down at the bottom, you see these arrows and you see the words experience, reflection, and action. In Jesuit education, there's a pedagogy that we focus on. It's called Ignatian Pedagogical Pedagogy, and paradigm. And the idea behind that, and the Jesuits back in the 1600s were saying this is an important process of really going deep into learning and growing and becoming our best selves. And in the middle of this pedagogy, which starts with context, is this idea of an interplay of experience, reflection, and action. And so we believe deeply that experience is very important for all of our students in all areas of the learning and growth. Reflection is necessary and cannot be ignored in the process, and it moves our students and it moves us into action. Very thoughtful, discerning action, something that we spent time thinking about. If you remove reflection, often an experience will result in an action, but it could be a reaction, something that wasn't really thought through. Maybe what you didn't want to have happen and you realized later you didn't think it through. You may have had those words go through your heads, or your students have had it go through their heads. So we work really hard on building that paradigm into the way that we do things and everything we do. The parent role here is really important, and that's where the partnership comes in. So we may be providing opportunities and experiences and places for reflection and asking our students to move into action, and the role of the parent, the support at home, helps with that process. What we ask you to do is to help encourage them to participate. Sometimes it's just trying something out and saying, you know what? When I reflect on this, I realize I really don't want to do that anymore. I want to do something else. That's part of it. The other thing is, I'm so glad I actually tried this. I really like it. I can't believe I haven't been doing this. One of our colleagues' son, who I think is going to be a junior this year, had no idea that they loved water sports, and eventually has become so excited just by trying something out that this is something that he really likes and is good at and wants to keep doing. You've all experienced that probably in your child's life, where you realize they really like something, and it wouldn't have happened without the encouragement to try. Stay informed. One thing our students know is they know when you don't know something, and they'll take advantage of that. And they will, it's like a classroom teacher. They know which teachers know how something works, and they'll take advantage of it if they think a teacher doesn't know how something works when we talk technology. And for you, I think it's just being informed by reading the e-news, making sure you know what's happening on campus so you can encourage and say, hey, I see that the tryouts for the fall plays coming up. I know you were interested in your past. Is that something you're still passionate about? You should make sure you sign up for auditions. Or do you want to talk about something you want to try in that area? Ask questions, and I don't mean like drill questions. Asking questions. I know Kristen spoke to that too. These conversations are really important and difficult in high school. I too had 2 students go through here, and I actually coached one of my daughters through high school volleyball. Boy, we learned how to communicate, and it took a lot of work and a lot of trust and a lot of patience. And I encourage you to know that these are not easy times for them to be in high school, and it's not like when you were in high school. So if you start with when I was in high school, ... that really isn't the thing they want to hear. I remember my own kids saying to me one time, "Mom, sometimes I just want you to listen. I don't want you to solve it. I just want you to listen. I want to know that I can do that with you." And wow, okay, and I still do that today because I heard it loud and clear. And I always ask, are you wanting me to help you problem solve, or do you just want me to listen today? Discourage. Well, so-and-so said it was a horrible thing to do. I don't want to do that. Encourage experiencing it for yourself. Somebody else's experience is not going to necessarily be theirs. So those conversations are hard too. That's usually a reason that I'm a little afraid to try it out, so I'm going to say this, because it's easier for me to say, somebody already said it was bad. It's like a Yelp review, and sometimes we look at those and we decide those people no, and I don't have to experience it for myself because I'm just going to look at that. Sometimes they're right on, sometimes they're not. Create space for discernment. That reflection piece is so important in making decisions. Should I try out for a sport? If you miss tryouts, now your opportunity is gone. So you have to time those things right. Clubs you can join anytime, but just being open to trying things out and knowing it's okay to say, this isn't for me. I'm going to try something different or something more. Empathy. I'm going to say this again. It is hard to be in high school. It's not the high school we went to and the times where we were in high school. And it seems like there was a lot of extra time to kind of do whatever. They're very scheduled students these days. They're very scheduled. So that's something to pay attention to. What does that look like in their world? And then support. I think I mentioned, Mom, just listen. Sometimes we just want you to listen, not fix. Kristen mentioned that there are some resources that the students will manage, and I as I was listening, I was like, boy, that might make you uncomfortable that there's lots of systems. I assure you that on our end, we are training our faculty and staff in these systems. And I do want to assure you that we poll our students, and this past year we asked our students, what works really well for you on My Bellarmine, and what did teachers do this year that was really helpful? And our training this summer with our teachers, it was all based on what our students' recommendations were. And I want you to know that that's the powerful partnership we want to continue here with our students. We want to listen to their voices because they often use some of the systems we put in front of them. We need to hear how it's working. So although we have some systems in which students turn in work, I just want to encourage you to understand there's a reason why we use some of them differently. Kristen kind of mentioned Shobi, which is the one on the bottom right hand of the screen here. Shobi is a great tool that we found quite a while ago that teachers can give feedback back and forth before something's finally graded. It's a really great tool for that. And so teachers like that during the process of learning. And then the final submitted product. So it's a back and forth interaction. It works really well. My Bellarmine, which is the learning management system we have, is really great for turning in the final product. And so it's just, they pull in a digital copy, they can write answers to a question right into it. So it is another way to submit information, or it can be graded or non-graded, and the students learn how to use that but not everybody uses it to the same extent. So that one varies because it's not as great at doing the process of feedback. So just knowing that. And then Turnitin.com, just a little side note, it's built into My Bellarmine now. So teachers were being taught just to, if they wanted to go to Turnitin.com, it's not a separate Turnitin, it's built within My Bellarmine. So we're trying to get down to just those two avenues of submitting. And of course, the option of hard copy, which they may turn in hard copy sometimes depending on what it is. But there's a variety of ways in which our students are able to learn and access different types of resources. So we're trying to balance that with them. Email is a form of communication. It is built into My Bellarmine. All the students have an email account, a Bellarmine email account, and we encourage them to use that one when communicating with us, not a personal one. And same with families. I mean, most of you, we don't give you a Gmail account, but our students, it's just one of those things that we get kind of alerts if it's from an outside entity, and I don't know if it's actually that student or somebody else. So if they use their Bellarmine email, it's much better. We also have a built-in messaging into My Bellarmine, and so students can message, and so can you message within My Bellarmine, which is another great way to communicate. There's another messaging tool which really all you do is sign up for it. If there's a weather situation or a late start because of something happening on campus, or we need to alert you about something, we use this system called Intrado School Messenger. Our digital service program will be sending that stuff out to you. You probably have already signed up for how you would like to be informed. I get it on a text, I get a phone call, and it shows up in my email. So I just make sure I don't miss a message when something comes from the school. If your phone is on silent in the middle of the night or in the early mornings, then you might not hear those messages. Just if it's gonna snow, maybe just have it ready that you might check it when you wake up. Kristen mentioned Notability. The reason why I put this on here, this is the #1 app used by our students. When we look at all the apps that they have available to them and we record the usage, this is #1. And I think it's important for you to know that, and what I would encourage you to do, you can go watch a tutoring session on it, just go to Notability.com, or if you have a phone and you want to download it and take a look at it, it is a place for them to take notes, to store things. They can pick up a PDF and write right on it. Teachers will use it for lots of ways that kids can engage in the work. They can use their Apple Pencil on it. Now it also has a pencil feature where it feels like you're writing with a pencil. It has graph paper built into it. Students can make straight lines, which is fantastic. So instead of just drawing like that, it actually will hold it and make it straight. It has a ruler built into it. It is quite phenomenal in the way it can be used. So I encourage you just to look at it. Our students use that 100%, and it keeps getting better. And then they tell us what it can do now, and then we are like, okay, so we keep updating on how we use it. We use the Google Suite. They all have a Google account, as we mentioned, so they will have a drive. They'll have places to store things and papers that they're writing. Items that they turn into My Bellarmine, they pull out of the Google Drive and drop it in to turn it in. We teach them how to do this in the classrooms. They may need to show you. If you want to know, just say, show me how you do this. But it's a pretty simple setup. They all have a calendar. There's lots of ways for them to stay organized and keep track. Their view of My Bellarmine looks something like this. So when they log in, they would see if they have any conduct issues, attendance summary. They would have each of their classes, if they have anything that's needing to be turned in or going to be due. We teach our teachers how to do assignments with correct due dates. We're working on being very systematic as a whole unit, making sure that we're consistent. We do work with about 75 teachers, and we are constantly kind of asking them to tweak and be a little bit more consistent on some things, and we keep working on that. Suggestions from our students are highly encouraged. So all of this is available to them so they can see what's going on. The parent one, and I'm afraid I don't think I have this set up yet, so I'm going to hopefully get in here. It's gonna, hang on for a second, you guys. I had a feeling it would drop me out. Then you probably just saw my password. But what I'm gonna ask you guys just to look at, I'm gonna impersonate a parent here who gave me permission to do this. When you log in, what I usually do, just so that you guys know, is I just keep my Bellarmine account set up so that I just have a button to push and it pops up. I'm going to impersonate just real quick. And just so I know, how many of you have been able to get in and are using My Bellarmine right now to look at things? That is fantastic. If you haven't yet and you're wondering, oh, what do I need to do? I would make sure that you can ask me right afterwards, or we can send you to somebody to make sure that you're getting your logins okay. One of the things I want to show you is under resources. You have all these tiles here as a parent that you can access to know what is going on. We call these tiles. Here's what Kristen was talking about, the Academic Center of Excellence, where you can find all those resources that she had recommended, and you can see what the ACE offerings are and all those types of things that she just shared. So you have access to each of these spaces, and I encourage you just to peruse and see what's going on. Here's the athletic page, books and devices, counseling, campus ministry, calendar, and schedules. And so that is, it keeps going on. You have a few more down there. But I would look at that. The other thing I would encourage you to look at is news. This is where you're going to find the e-news, the Bellarmine news and updates. It's in lots of locations, but it gives you what's going on. Yep, that's where we are right now, Parent Partnership. So if you wanted to know how to do that, if you're going to register for things, it will be through here also. And then I like the calendar. I don't know what the parent view really is, but this helps you see kind of what's going on. Now you notice this little green one here. It says Virtual Bellarmine Preparatory School. The ninth graders were all asked to take this course. It's about getting their technology readiness in place. If they haven't done it, they still have time. They need to be working on it. And you'll see right here in the blue, do you see the blue ones? Those are all mini assignments from each of the lessons from that course. And so when they complete it, it's an assignment, then we know they've gone through that course. It is not high stakes, high stress, but it is a readiness course so that they're ready with their technology on the first day of school. That one you might want to put in your notes. So the last thing I want to talk about is just screen time, mental health support, those types of things, because that is the reality of our students today. We're a one-to-one school. There's screen time, but they also have other devices that we all know they carry around too. And this website right here, this link, Common Sense Media, there's a parent section there. We are also going to be providing resources. We have a parent night actually in October. We're bringing in a company called Challenge Success out of Stanford University. They're going to train our teachers first. We're going to talk about homework and how much time we're giving our kids to actually do the things that they do, and make sure that we focus on what a well-balanced student is. And then there's a parent follow-up with the same person that's going to be training us during the day. But we need to stay on top of these types of things that help our students be well-balanced. We have an acceptable use policy. I encourage you to look at what that means, their tech use on campus. We have I've done some research on this, and it's been suggested that the parents have a similar acceptable use policy at home, so it doesn't change when they go from the workplace to the home place. There's some similarities, and that one is built to support the other. So it'd be worthwhile to look at it and say, what could we do at home that matches some of the things that they're experiencing at school? Resources like teachers, counselors, advisors, families, these are all resources that we recommend that you know you have access to. The parent role, again, stay current on technology, what's going on in their screen time, how are they doing social emotionally, monitor, ask questions, and then create routines. And one of the big routines is time for family. Sometimes that's the regret I might feel. I was feeling like, well, we're all together, but we were always doing something that was part of our son and daughter's schedules. Did we create other family time? Time for exercise, sleep, choice. Wow. Time for study, and create space for quiet time and reflection time. Bill already mentioned this. I'm just going to quickly talk about it. You can see this, but we really look at the chain of contact to be in some sort of order. Sometimes when you skip over where you can get your question answered right with the teacher, or if it's an extra co-curricular activity, it's the coach, and you bypass and go to some other level, it's going to take more time to work its way back down. So if you have an essential question, contact the teacher first. They all have an advisor also, if it's not necessarily academic and aligned to that teacher and that course. They all are assigned a counselor too. Perhaps that's the first contact. We have the Academic Center of Excellence, but using that without talking to the teacher first seems to be something that needs to be aligned. Bill, Vice Principal of Curriculum Instruction, he probably shouldn't be the first contact if it's a question that the teacher should be answering. And then digital services. And same thing with co-curricular. We have coaches, we have advisors, we have counselors, and then we have a vice principal of student life. And those are kind of the order in which you should maybe navigate the questions and concerns you might have. Cindy, I think this is a handout that you also have in your packet. And I believe these are all contact pieces, people you can contact if you have questions or concerns. Thank you.
We spoke about this before we presented. This is not exactly the model for good instruction where we just throw information, but there's really not a different way to do it. If you're like me, I have to process a little bit, and then I think of the questions that I wish I would have asked. So these are the resources for you. Take a picture, if you would, and it's also going to be available on the website. These are the key people for you to contact should those questions come up at 2 a.m. The night before school starts. So it tells you a little bit about the role and why you might contact that person. So for example, myself, if you have general operation questions or really just want to be in touch with someone who can maybe answer a question about the institution, I'm your person. Specific to academics, Bill and Jody is also an excellent resource when it comes to academics. Her focus is more on campus ministry and the professional development, behind the scenes preparation for faculty. And then of course the ACE team, you met Kristen and Lauren, two members of the core team also with us today. It was Kelly Rosati, I think she slipped away. So those are the three folks from the ACE that are great contacts. The Dean of Students is someone that, some people jokingly will say, oh, I don't really want to talk to the Dean of Students. That usually means something is wrong. But actually, Carrie Harrison is a wonderful person to talk about climate and culture. If you just have general questions about how students are navigating the shift in climate, she's a great resource. Kevin Minus is all things activities, athletics, programs, clubs, etc. He's a great resource, as is his assistant, Christine Zelazny. So I kind of went through that and not in the order you see it on the screen, but All of us are available. If you reach out to any one of us and perhaps it's not the right person to answer your question, we'll redirect. But never feel like you can't ask the question, whether it be by phone, email. It's really important that we stay connected and partner with you. Here are some events coming up, opportunities for you as parents to engage with us. Many of you may feel like this is the beginning of a 4-year journey for your children, but it's also the beginning of a 4-year journey for you. And you will meet new folks. Some of them are the people sitting next to you at this table today, and throughout the time you'll have encounters with people that you will discover you have so much in common with and you want to become lifelong friends. So an event that's coming up just this week is the family barbecue or the community barbecue. It's right here on campus. If you haven't RSVP'd, I encourage you to do so we can ensure that we have enough food. And then later in the fall, we will have opportunities to discover how you might want to share your Magis or your talents and treasures with the community through volunteerism, etc. And then we also want to make sure you have additional opportunities to engage with co-curriculars and the campus ministry program, as well as more about the academics. Often those questions come up a week or two into the year when you start to see things come up for your children, and now you have the questions. So we will have more engagement opportunities. One will be the back to school night for about a half an hour before we will be available to answer questions, actually throughout that night. And then finally, there's a parent education. This is one of many that we hope to offer, and it's on October 24th from Challenge Success on well-balanced students, how to support your children in this journey to be balanced in their everyday life. So those are just a few things for your calendar. And with that, I'm inviting others from the team of presenters this morning to come up, and we want to open it up and ask you to share your questions. We can come to you or shout real loud, and we will repeat your question and answer it go to the order. We're going to touch over time. If you need to scoot, we certainly understand. But are there questions from the presentation or something that we didn't cover that you would like more information on? The question was, if we need to pick up our student early, what's the process? So this is called the Connolly Campus Center, and right up above me, I'm facing it right now, is the attendance office. You would park in the visitor parking lot. So if you come up 23rd Street or if you come down Adams, you will see a parking lot marked visitor. That's where you should park, walk across campus until you get to the Connolly Campus Center. Come in those doors right up here at the top and look for Carrie Stewart, and you will check your child out. It's helpful if you notify the school during the day via email or a call to Carrie Stewart to let her know. But if not, and also obviously let your child know so they know to leave class. And that's arranged between attendance and security, as I understand it. We've changed that system recently. Right back here? Does Bellarmine have a position on AI? Yes, we do. We're still kind of working on fully articulating what that statement is. But in our research, what we know is that AI can be a wonderful tool. By the way, AI is artificial intelligence. It's Google search on steroids. It writes papers, it writes agendas. It's an incredible tool when used correctly. So our premise is it's a tool that can be used to support students in the learning process, but it cannot replace the learning process. Students need to demonstrate their own learning. Using resources is part of the skill building that we offer here, and it's reinforced in the ACE continually. So that's kind of it right now, and we have safeguards to help students find the correct way to use it. Wonderful question, freshman drop-off. So there are a couple of options. The first would be if you're coming off of Union to come up 23rd, and you take a left in front of the reader board. That's referred to as Jesuit Drive. And you take that all the way to the top where you'll see Orrell Hall. There's three buildings really that create kind of a cul-de-sac. Orton Hall would be on your left, Orrell would be in front of you, Bellarmine Hall would be to your right, and there's just kind of a turnaround where you pull up and drop your child off. I would encourage you to use that drop-off for a couple of reasons. One, there's less traffic. Students are not parking there. Well, they're not supposed to park there. And there's kind of a routine then on how to exit. I would encourage you to get here earlier than 8:30. Between about 8:30 and 8:45, it's kind of pandemonium. There's a lot of traffic. The second alternative to that would be to come into this parking lot and to park right back here by those stairs. You can drop your child off. You don't have to park, just drop them off, and they come up the stairs and onto campus, and then you can exit. The same routine for afternoon pickup, and again, I would encourage you to get here early if you want to be on time to your next appointment. It's a great question. This has to do with social media and communication. The question was specific to Instagram. Do I need to sign up? I don't have an Instagram account. I don't have an Instagram account, and I'm not planning on getting one. Probably should, but I'm not going, there's more than one way to get the information, okay? So we use e-news, and I think it's a pretty robust e-newsletter that we provide, and there's resource tiles in My Bellarmine that Jody described. Social media is an additional way, but it's not the only way. There will be more to come on communication preferences. We did complete we asked our families to complete a survey last spring. That wouldn't have necessarily included you on what are the best ways for us to deliver. And what we learned is multiple ways, not to use just one channel for communication. So don't run out and sign up for Instagram if that's not your preference. So the question is specific to co-curriculars. Let me check with Kevin Minus to see what are our coaches, moderators, and directors using to push information out. What platform are they using? We will put that in our next e-news, and if for some reason I forget, will you please email me and remind me? I think that's a great question, and I don't have all of the information to answer you right now. Again, thank you so much for being here and for partnering with us. This is such an important transition for your sons and daughters and for our students. We're so grateful that you are sharing them with us and you trust us to form them so they can be that grad at graduation. Thanks very much for your time, and we look forward to the next time we can be together, hopefully Thursday. Take care and God bless.